So, you used to play Destiny 2 way back when, and at some point, you stopped. Maybe because a shiny new game caught your attention and you got sucked into that. Or because you tried one of the expansions and it really just left a bad taste in your mouth. Whatever the reason, you've heard that live support for D2 is now finally ending after close to a decade, and you want to come back to experience the final content update, Monument of Triumph. But you're worried you're going to be lost as hell. Don't worry, I got you. Today, we are going to go over all the following topics in my returning player guide. Feel free to skip ahead to whatever section you want. Starting with, my power level is low. Is that bad? Do I have to grind? If you haven't logged onto D2 in a long while, your power level may very well be in the toilet. And while you may want to grind and get it up a little bit, depending on what you eventually want to do, know that it isn't the end of the world because of shared fireteam power, or whatever the hell it's actually called. The term itself doesn't really matter. Just know that no matter what your power level is, if you're in an activity with other players, you will automatically be brought up to exactly 5 power under their power level. For example, right here, I have tanked my power down to 295, but the activity is still bringing me up to 545 power because the highest power in the fire team is at 550. But yeah, if you do actually want to work on upping your power level for your own sake, or maybe just getting some additional gear, we can talk about that right now in What the F is the Portal? Okay, at some point, the higher-ups at Bungie decided to create the Portal, which is basically the Destiny equivalent of turning on a smart TV and being greeted by a Roku menu. It was Bungie's attempt at trying to present players with options of how to play the game in a more organized manner, aka you want to check out a hand-picked variety of solo activities? Click here. You want to play, quote, pinnacle ops, aka exotic missions and other challenging 3-player content? Click here. Which I'm sure sounds easy at the surface, but then you click into any specific activity. For example, why don't we choose the derealized exotic mission, and then you see this thing down here that says C+, and you think, what the hell is that? Wait, is that my reward rank? C+ doesn't seem very good, maybe I can change that. And then you click customize over here, and your eyes are absolutely bombarded by a hodgepodge of tomfuckery. This right here is why people found the Portal confusing, strange, and overwhelming. You can basically add on a bunch of challenging modifiers to make the activities you play more difficult, and by doing so, you get more or higher tiered rewards. But again, it is not really user-friendly, and it turned a lot of people off from the game. In Monument of Triumph, Bungie is bringing back the directory, which a lot of people are excited about because it kind of brings back that feeling of exploration and whimsy. But if you still want to check out the Portal, which can actually help you grind for new gear and up your power level a little bit, you should look for the icons down at the very bottom of the directory. I'd say feel free to hop into the Portal and try out certain activities to get a feel for how it works, but maybe stick with easy stuff first. Anything in Fireteam Ops Quick Play, don't go digging into the weeds and effing around with custom modifiers right away because you may feel overwhelmed very quickly. The other thing to take note of is that the Portal will tell you what kind of rewards you can get from playing each activity, either a weapon, like so, or a particular piece of armor, like so. The green engrams are bonus drops, and they can actually add up real fast, giving you a lot of gear. For example, if I were to play one match of Fireteam Vanguard Quick Play right now, I would get 6 rewards upon finishing: the Hawthorne's Field Forged Shotgun, 2 regular engrams, and finally 3 bonus engrams. So if you're ever in the mood to grab some loot, it's kind of strange to navigate, but you could always check out the Portal and see what is available. Moving on, what is tiered armor, aka the diamonds by my armor? If you're logging onto D2 for the first time in a long while, you might notice these strange little diamonds on your armor icons. That is Bungie's tiered armor and tiered weapon system that was added during Edge of Fate in 2025. In a nutshell, think of it this way: the more diamonds, the stronger your gear is, with 5 diamonds being the absolute best. That is to say, a piece of armor with 5 diamonds on the icon is a piece of, quote, tier 5 armor, aka the strongest and overall best quality of armor you can get. On the other hand, a piece of armor with 1 diamond on it is just tier 1 armor, aka the lowest quality of armor you can get. If your armor has no diamonds on it, that means you're wearing old armor, which isn't the worst thing in the world. One of my builds features old armor with a pretty good roll, but yeah, as you start playing again and get new armor to drop, each new piece will drop with diamonds on it. By inspecting your armor and hovering over the diamonds on the right side of the screen, it'll give you a basic TLDR on the difference between each tier. Tier 1 armor can drop with the total amount of stat points being anywhere between 52 and 57, while on the high end, Tier 5 armor will drop with the total amount of stat points being at 75. You'll notice it also says plus stat tuning though. What does that mean? Good question. The short answer is it's kind of for hardcore armor min-maxers. If you're a casual player returning to have fun, I wouldn't worry about it too much, but I'll explain anyway. If we inspect a piece of Tier 5 armor, you will notice there are 3 major stat spikes. In this particular case, the spikes are in weapons, grenade, and super. More on those particular stat spikes a little bit later, but you might also notice this weird little symbol over here. That is the armor's tuning mod. In this case, the tuning mod is for the melee stat, but keep in mind that every time you acquire a piece of Tier 5 armor, the tuning stat is assigned randomly. Because this armor has a melee tuning stat, if we come up on the armor right here and look at this second mod slot from the left, that slot does not exist on any other tier of armor, only on Tier 5. That mod slot will allow me to fine-tune the melee stat of my Tier 5 armor, again, because that is what the tuning slot is on this particular piece. You can either get a small bump to the lowest stats on your armor, or I can raise the melee stat by 5 in favor of lowering another stat by 5. Again, this is basically armor min-maxing, so if you're a casual, don't sweat it too much. The main takeaway is that the higher tier your armor is, the better and stronger it's going to be. Higher tier armor usually drops from more difficult activities in D2, but you're going to need to raise your power level and your guardian rank a little bit before you start seeing Tier 5s dropping on the regular out in the wild. More on guardian rank a little bit later, by the way. All right, moving on. What are tiered weapons, aka the diamonds by my weapon icon? Well, like armor, weapons are now also tiered, and the basic TLDR also applies here, aka the more diamonds you have on your weapon icon, the quote, better that weapon is. Now, I gotta clarify, a higher tiered weapon does not mean that the weapon does more damage, so don't worry about that. But the short version is, the higher the tier of your weapon, the more stuff it will have on it. For example, a Tier 1 weapon will have basically nothing on it, just base stats and a plain roll. A Tier 2 weapon will have 2 of the weapon perks enhanced, aka slightly better than the normal version of that weapon perk. That is what those yellow arrows mean, by the way. Those are enhanced weapon perks. A Tier 3 weapon will have enhanced weapon perks, but you'll have slightly more options to choose from in each column. A Tier 4 weapon will have everything a Tier 3 weapon has, but as we can see, it now has enhanced everything, including enhanced barrel picks, enhanced mag perks, and access to enhanced weapon mods, again, all indicated by that little yellow arrow. A Tier 5 weapon has everything a Tier 4 weapon has, including an enhanced origin trait, aka that weapon perk way over on the far right hand side of the gun, and a unique cosmetic glow. You see how my gun is glowing blue right now? That is because it is a Tier 5 weapon. Gives it a little extra visual flair, but you can turn that off if you find it annoying. Tier 5 weapons also have access to a hollow chip, which again is just visual flair. It gives you the option for your gun to do unique visual things when killing enemies. Purely cosmetic, so don't worry about that too much. To recap, a Tier 5 weapon does not do more damage than a Tier 1 weapon, but it kind of has access to more things, many of them being enhanced. More perks to choose from, stronger, aka enhanced weapon perks, enhanced weapon mods, enhanced everything, you name it. For that reason, most hardcore PvE players who know life the game will basically just immediately throw any weapon that is not a Tier 5 directly into the trash. But again, if you're just a casual player here to relive the old days and have fun, I wouldn't worry about it. I've had plenty of Tier 3 and Tier 4 weapons that served me very well. Just like higher tiered armor, higher tiered weapons usually drop from more difficult or more challenging in-game activities. Also, for the first time ever on June 9th, we'll finally be able to manually upgrade weapons to a higher tier. It's going to cost materials, but you will be able to do it. Moving on, what are armor archetypes and set bonuses? Back when we were talking about tiered armor, I bet some of you were wondering, hey, why do the armor stats look like that? AKA, why are there 3 big spikes for 3 particular stats, and then no stats on the other 3? That is due to my armor archetype. If we hover over the icon down here, it'll show us the armor archetype, which basically dictates what 2 of your big stat spikes will be. This armor in particular is gunner armor, meaning the primary stat chunk is for weapons and the secondary stat chunk is for grenade, which again we can see over there on the right. So what determines the third stat chunk? Oh, you guessed it, RNG. Yeah, Yeah, there's a fair amount of RNG involved if you're trying to farm for optimal high-level armor. But if you're just here to have fun and goof around and relive the olden days, then who cares? As I am writing this script and recording this audio, there are 6 armor archetypes in D2. However, as you are now watching this video, which is probably out on June 9th, there are officially now 12 armor archetypes in D2. Try not to be too overwhelmed with armor archetypes. Yes, you can farm for quote optimal ones if you want, but really it just depends on what kind of build you want to put together. If you're rocking a very melee heavy build, go for armor that features a lot of melee stat. If you want to use a build that is very grenade spammy, go for armor with a lot of grenade stat. If you don't really know what kind of build you want to use, I have an extremely easy answer for you. Just say fuck it and go for any armor archetype that features the weapon stat. If you're wondering why, skip ahead to the what's the best armor stat and why chapter of today's video, but real quick, let's also go over armor set bonuses. If you acquire a new piece of armor, you can inspect it and see right here what its set bonuses are. Basically, if you have 2 pieces of armor in an armor set, your guardian will have the 2-piece set bonus active. In this case, I have 1 piece of tech sec armor on, but if I put on another, I would get access to the wrecker armor set bonus. If I had 4 pieces of tech sec armor on all at the same time, I would get access to the concussive rounds armor set bonus and the wrecker set bonus. There are many armor set bonuses in the game. I'll eventually do a deep dive on which are the best and why, but for right now, just be aware that they are a thing. All right, what is the best armor stat and why? If you haven't played D2 in a hot minute, you might notice that the armor stats might be different than what you remember. They can also now go above 100. The new ceiling for each armor stat is 200. Think of it this way, each stat gives you a regular benefit from 0 to 100, but if you get that stat above 100, you get an enhanced benefit as well. Health increases the amount of health you get each time you pick up an orb of power out in combat, and it reduces incoming weapon flinch, which is nice in PvP. The enhanced benefit for health is that your shields recharge more quickly and have additional health when facing combatants. I just threw on a bunch of random armor for this demonstration, but as you can see, my enhanced benefit is currently around 36.2% for shield recharge rate, but if I pushed my stat closer to 200, the enhanced benefit would be stronger percent-wise. Melee, of course, governs your melee ability cooldown rate, but the enhanced benefit, aka if you get it above 100, is that you can increase the damage done by your melee attacks. So obviously, if you want to have a melee heavy build, you'd want to crank that number way up. Grenade is basically the same thing as melee, but for your grenade ability. Again, your grenades will do more damage if you crank your nade stat up over 100. Super increases the amount of super energy you get from all sources, and yeah, if you bump that stat up over 100, it'll increase the damage done by your super. This is widely regarded as a very good stat for endgame PvE, especially when it comes to DPSing raid or dungeon bosses. Heavy-hitting supers like the Titan Thunder Crash, boosted by the power of an exotic like Curus of the Falling Star, can hit bosses really hard if your super stat is maxed out at 200. The class armor stat reduces your class ability cooldown. The enhanced benefit is that you can gain an overshield when using your class ability, which is fine. And the final stat is weapons, which improves your weapon's reload speed and handling, as well as damage done to minor and major combatants. If you didn't know, minor combatants are enemies with a red health bar and majors are enemies with an orange health bar. The enhanced benefit for the weapon stat is that ammo bricks from defeated targets have a chance to contain additional rounds, and your weapons will also do more damage to guardians and bosses. And it is for that reason alone that it is heavily agreed upon by PvE tryhards that the weapon stat is the best stat in the game if you're interested in playing in any kind of endgame PvE content. Basically, unless you have some kind of grenade or melee heavy build, you should almost always just straight up build into your weapon stat. The reason is twofold. Gaining extra ammo per each special and heavy ammo brick is genuinely great, but more importantly, the ability to deal extra damage to bosses for free is insane. As you can imagine, if you want to go balls deep on a raid boss, the most 2 important armor stats in the game are going to be weapons and super. Up until recently, there were no armor archetypes in the game that offers you both weapons and super, but we're now getting one on June 9th called the Powerhouse Armor Archetype. That is going to be a safe armor type to try and farm for. I would recommend opening up your ghost and attuning your ghost so that the armor with the Powerhouse archetype is more likely to drop out in the wild. In the footage I'm showing you, my ghost is being attuned for gunner armor because the Powerhouse Armor archetype doesn't exist yet, but I'm imagining that on June 9th, you will have an option to attune for Powerhouse Armor. And on that note, why don't we talk about Prismatic? What the hell is that? If you haven't played the final shape, first of all, holy fuck, You're missing peak. Please go play that campaign. It is hands down the best campaign we've ever had in D2 by a mile, but more importantly, you probably have no idea what Prismatic is. Let's zoom out here for a little bit. There are 3 light subclasses, Void, Solar, and Arc. There are 2 darkness subclasses, Strand and Stasis. The 6th and final subclass option is called Prismatic, and it's kind of a hybrid between both light and dark. Think of it this way. Imagine a Bungie dev went through every class in the game and made a greatest hits collection, aka they took the most popular melee options, the most popular grenade options, and the most popular aspects for each class and mashed it all together in one hybrid class. That is what Prismatic is. It is a greatest hits mashup of light and dark for every individual class in the game. Unfortunately, if you're interested in playing Prismatic on your Titan, Warlock, or Hunter, I am 99.99999% sure that you are going to have to play the Final Shape expansion in order to unlock all of that stuff, which again, I hardcore recommend. It is a great story. And I guess if you're also really interested in good story, you can also play the Witch Queen, which I think is a 9 out of 10, and the Final Shape, which is a 10 out of 10. You can also check out Lightfall, but that is kind of universally panned as probably the worst modern Destiny 2 story. I think you can kind of just either read a recap of that or like skip it altogether. Moving on, what is Guardian rank, aka the number over everybody's head? Guardian rank was added into the game in 2023 along with the Lightfall expansion. There are 11 total Guardian ranks, 11 being the highest, and whatever number your Guardian rank is, it will be displayed above your head in game. The point of Guardian rank is kind of twofold. Point 1 of having a high Guardian rank is actually practical. It is to unlock more stuff. If you hit Guardian rank 6, you unlock additional armor mods, weapon mods, and loadout slots, which definitely can be important if you're trying to really go hard in Pantheon or other endgame activities. If you open your menu and look over here on the left, those are your loadout slots. Again, if your Guardian rank is very low, you probably won't have this many loadout slots. You need to raise your Guardian rank just a little bit to get more. And by the way, old footage as of today, I believe we are now getting 20 loadout slots total in Monument of Triumph, which is great. And point 2 of having a high Guardian rank is really just to flex on people. Again, I think you really only need to hit Guardian rank 6 if you just want tangible in-game benefits, but if you really want to rank mog some random Guardian at the tower, feel free to grind all the way up to 11, I guess, just to say you did it. When the system first came out, I really cared about grinding my Guardian rank up to 11 each time, but I've unlocked everything I ever needed to with that system a long time ago. I no longer care about the number over my head. To raise your Guardian rank, go into your menu under the Journey tab and click View Rank Progress over on the left, and the game will show you a checklist of things you have to do before reaching the next Guardian rank. When you have everything checked off for the next rank, you can fly down to the tower and approach the Ironwood tree, and the game will give you an option to ascend, and you will raise your Guardian rank by 1. Then, if you want to, you can check out what challenges you have to unlock your next Guardian rank. Almost at the end, where the hell do I start and what do I do first? Now, that is a hard question to answer because there really is no correct answer, but I can at least give you a few ideas on where you can go to get the ball rolling. If you are what they call a quote new light, aka you are now just logging onto D2 for basically the first time ever, Jesus Christ, you picked a hell of a time to join us, buddy. But yeah, if you're asking Bungie, they would probably recommend you go to the Cosmodrome and interact with a dude named Shaw Han, who will help you begin the New Light quest, which is designed to get new players get their feet a little bit wet. But if you're a longtime player who just hasn't been around since Final Shape or so, and you want to do Monument of Triumph stuff, well, in that case, I would recommend going to the tower. From a recent Bungie article, if you go to the tower courtyard, quote, behind the newly erected monument are 4 plaques celebrating Guardian tenets. Those plaques are basically vendors, and interacting with them is going to be how you kick off getting started with the Monument of Triumph event. If you want to do a little grinding first to maybe get more gear, raise your power level, get your feet a little bit wet after being gone for so long, you could F around with the portal a little bit. But remember, keep it simple and maybe start with match-made activities before getting lost in the weeds and having your brain explode. And finally, I have more questions that you didn't answer. Well, I got 2 replies for you. One is to check out the following resources from Bungie. First is a new and returning player FAQ, which I will link down in the pinned comment of today's video. Next is a link to the Bungie forums where there are several new player guides posted that you can read through at your leisure. And the final resource, a link to my Twitch channel. I stream every week, and as you can imagine, in the month of June, I will be streaming a lot of Destiny to make some final guides on the game we love so much. Swing by, and if I'm not in the middle of something, I'll do my best to give you an answer, or some helpful person in the chat might as well. Thank you very much for watching. Mad love to everybody who logs on today and this week. I love you all. Thank you. See you on Twitch. Peace.